good evening, and welcome to another edition of Government at Work, a program brought to you by the CCM-led Nevis Island Administration and hosted by yours truly. This program comes to you every Thursday evening on VON Radio from 8 to 9:30 p.m. and rebroadcast on Sunday evenings on Nevis Television from 8:30 p.m. It's a program designed to inform and educate you, our listening and viewing audience, on the latest developments taking place here on the island of Nevis. In addition, our television program, The Bird's Eye View, is aired on Nevis Television every Tuesday and Wednesday evening from 7:15 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. If you missed our Bird's Eye View program, you can log on to our Facebook page to look at any program that you may have missed. Just type in the words Bird's Eye View in the search field. The icons will pop up. You click on the one with the pelican beak forming the V in the words Bird's Eye View. We ask that you share our Facebook page with your family and friends so that they too can be kept abreast of our weekly programming. We will take a short break, and when we return, I shall introduce my guest for this evening's program to you. So stay logged on, for we will be right back.
So right, St. Thomas is right, St. James is put together and build your land. Right, St. George's and St. Paul's together with St. John's. This land is enough for all to share. No reason to leave and go nowhere. Foreigners can come here from America and England. There is something mighty sweet about my land. And if the foreigners who live here can insist that it's here they're from, then I swear I'll never leave my native land. One people, one country.
Welcome back. Folks, I am pleased to have as my guest this evening the Honorable Spencer Brand, Minister of Labour, Public Works, Physical Planning, Environment, Posts, et al. Honorable, a lot have been happening in your ministry as of late, so I know that my listeners and viewers are looking forward to our discussions this evening. Good evening and welcome to the program once again.
Good evening, King. It is indeed a pleasure for me to be back here once again, and let me say a very pleasant good evening to our listeners and viewers. You are right, it's the start of the new year, and my ministry are ramping up a number of initiatives that we would have liked to have seen happen last year, but due to the COVID situation, virtually everything that we had scheduled and planned for last year had to be shelved. So we almost have to do twice as much this year than what we did last year. But it's good to be here, and I'm certainly looking forward to our discussion tonight.
Me too, and I'm sure it's going to be fruitful. But before we get into our discussion this evening, could you give us an update on the progress of the Fort Charles project?
Well, we already we have already had the fact-finding mission on that. We have had a team out of Jamaica that did some surveys, and just like many other things, the source of financing that we were hoping that we would have procured some financing from, they did indicate to us that they were no longer in a position at that time to. So at the moment we are looking for additional sources of financing. It is still a project that we hope to undertake in the near future. Our biggest issue is financing, accessing financing. We have some other minor works and so on to do, some other studies and so on that we hope to do to make sure that we, at the end of the day, that whatever we do would benefit the Bad Village community, would enhance the facility and would secure it. So like the biggest issue right now is accessing financing for that project.
Okay. Remind our listeners again what it is the NIA is trying to do with the restoration of Fort Charles.
Well, the Fort Charles, as many persons would know, was one of the earliest forts in the region, and because of erosion and undermining of the fort, there is a real danger of it actually collapsing. And we would have embarked on an initiative to try and have it restored. We have, like I said, we have done the initial survey. There was a company out of Jamaica that we had here. They have done some public consultation. They have spoken to a lot of persons in Bat Village. And the idea is that we would seek funding to do some land reclamation and restoration at the Bat, at the Fort Charles. That is the nature of the project. And, you know, as we discuss it, the concept of the project keep changing. There are some folks who feel that why we don't put a marina there. There are some, you know, so there are quite a lot of ideas that is floating around as with regards to that project. At the end of it, we will have a consultation with the general public and to see what best we can be the final product. We know that the Bat Village community would play an integral role in that project, whatever we decide to do there. In the final concept of the project, the Bat Village community will have an integral role to play in that.
Okay. What would become of the existing buildings that are there?
That too, we have had in the initial assessment, there are some recommendations for those buildings. We have not made a final determination yet. I know for a fact, I think one or two of them is actually in the sea, very close to the coastline. So those themselves would either have to be demolished based on their proximity to the coast and based on the deterioration of them. The others, we really have not made a final determination as to what we are going to do, but all of those would form part of the final discussion that we would have with the consultant and how. There are some persons who believe that all of them should be taken down. Like I said, there are a lot of views surrounding this particular initiative, but I think once we get to that stage where we can access some financing to do what we really want to do, then we'll basically narrow down those nitty-gritties and so on.
Are you hopeful that before the end of 2021 we may be able to see some sort of movement in that direction?
It is always my hope, King, but I'm a practical person. Sometimes we make projections, we formulate certain plans and initiatives, but everything that I do, so to speak, within my ministry is heavily dependent on financing.
True.
And I think that our resource base and our resource capacity at this moment, outside of external financing, grant funding and so on, some of those things would have to be put on hold and so on. It is my hope, because it is still an urgent matter that needs to be addressed. And I often, get this fear that, sometimes there are these dreaded phone calls that you fear that you will ever have. That one day you wake up and it would be good if we can get it done during the course of this year. We are pursuing, like I said, other avenues of financing, but the availability of financing at the moment is extremely, extremely difficult and near impossible at times.
Understood. Now, I notice you're doing some major repairs to the fisheries complex next to the public market in Charlestown.
Yes.
When all of the repairs would have been completed, will we see any new features added, or you're only doing repairs to the existing one?
Well, the fisheries would have made the request of our ministry to have some work done. General public would recall that last year we also did some renovation work there at the fisheries complex. We would have replaced some tiles, we would have upgraded some bathrooms, done some painting. This is just another component of that repair. The fisheries, I believe, would determine how they would fashion their service to the general public. What we are doing, we are repairing a canopy that reached to a stage where it's dangerous. You have flaking steel and dropping concrete over your head and so on. And it was proven to be a real concern for persons in the area who walk around that building. You may at times have a piece of concrete dropping off in your head, and we don't really want to have any accident that can damage or injure anyone. And so we are partnering with the fisheries to make sure that we remedy that particular situation.
Okay, all right. Now, to our discussions, water. The staff at the water department had its first ever retreat in many years on the 2nd of February. You and I are fully aware of some of the many complaints that has been coming from members of staff from time to time. So I am anxious to hear how that retreat went and, of course, some of the positives that may have emerged as a result. Share that experience with us.
It's a wonderful feeling, King, to see that we have water department, we have public works, we have planning, there is quite a number of persons that are employed. And I felt that the retreat was timely because at the moment we are in this transition from one manager to the next. And I felt that the retreat was successful. I gather that the staff was extremely happy to be away and apart from the day-to-day hustle and getting things done as it related to water. They were able to sit back, relax, have some good conversation, have some fun. For me, one of the highlights was the presentation by Talent Plus, the HR consultant. That, in my mind, was able to push the staff in a kind of mindset that allows them to think differently about how they do things, how they relate to each other, how they interact with each other. So I felt that was one of the highlights of the retreat. We have had presentation from the manager, Ms. Tanya Bartlett, which would have outlined some of our vision for the water department. And also we would have recognized a number of outstanding employees for last year. This is an initiative that I started 2 years ago, and I felt that for me that's a motivating tool that can help to get other staff members to up their game, so to speak. So all in all, I felt that the retreat was good, was successful. We did accomplish our goal to bring all of the staff together and have that interaction, develop that rapport, so to speak, with staff and the management and all of that and so on. Because sometimes you have folks working in these large departments that you haven't seen for months and months and months. So I felt that for me, the retreat was more of a kind of human-to-human interaction. You know, not all muscle and brine and metal and so on and so forth. We needed to have that. And I felt that it did in fact accomplish what we set out to accomplish.
Sounds good. I have a couple of friends that work at the water department, and normally from time to time they will meet me and complain about all kind of things. So what was the grievous session like? Because they must have, I mean, I know some people have grievances outside of work, and when time comes to lay them on the table, they hardly say anything.
Well, you know, you hit the nail right on the head. That really wasn't a session for workers, so to speak, to put their grievances on the table. But if they did, we would have, we would have sought to accommodate them. But I think that it was more of a motivation booster, kind of person-to-person interaction, develop that interaction with your workers. So I felt that, and look, persons will have grievances in any setting, and oftentimes we try to address them the best way we can. And as the water department and as so many other areas across the service, there are grievances. And from day to day, we seek and try our best to address those grievances the best way we can. Some of them are definitely outside of our control, and we often try to point the individual in the right direction that they can have those grievances addressed. But like I said, it was a successful retreat. I think that the aims of it were achieved, where we were able to get the entire body together, gave them this motivational presentation by by Talent Plus, and the manager would have outlined some of our vision. I myself would have made a presentation, asking for staff to rally with each other and support the management team, and to try and be more accountable to the general public, and in everything that they do, try and be more responsive and so on. So I feel that the retreat was successful, and I am already looking forward to next year's.
Sounds good. Now, you spoke earlier of recognition.
Yes.
Could you remember offhand some of the names that was
No,
recognized?
I don't have the names in front of me, but
Right.
across the water department we have different units, different entities, so we were able to recognize
Okay.
each an individual in each one, because I think that what that does, it allows Spencer Van was recognized this year, I'm going to go the extra mile so that, and
Yep.
it kind of builds that
Inspiration.
and so on and so forth.
Yes. Now, I understand that the water department office in town is moving to a new location shortly. When is that move likely to take place, and where would the new location be?
Well, if I may backtrack a bit, I became aware of a situation at the present billing office, been some concern about mold, and from my understanding, it has been a problem that they have had sometime. They tried to, public folks would have gone in over the years and try and remedy that situation. Might have been solved for a while, but these old building, these old stones building, you put air conditioning in them, and then you have this moisture, so to speak, building up. That is something that has reoccurred. It's a reoccurring problem. And we took the decision that, look, I would prefer that we put these workers in an environment that is much safer and much more conducive for the level of performance and productivity that we are asking of them. And so we decided to have them relocated. We looked around Charlestown and, on the outskirts of Charlestown, but we felt that the best location that we could find at the moment was where the old Digicel office was, the Albertine Solomon building there. And we were able to come to an agreement with the Solomon Pinney family for the rental of that place. We are hoping that we can be relocated within the first week of March. The Public Works is presently on site doing some work on the interior to accommodate the counters and teller area. So that is ongoing, and we hope that once that is completed, we can have the offices relocated.
Sounds good. Now, since the appointment of the new manager, Ms.
Yes.
Tonya Bartlett, the department seems to be heading into a different direction, a more harmonious, unified, and direction. We are now hearing of plans to introduce a number of new initiatives, namely e-payment portal for customers to pay bills, documenting of its standard operation procedures, data collection, e-billing to save paper and cost, a brand new website as well. This must be a breath of fresh air to you as a minister with responsibility.
Well, King, when I took over the various ministries that the Premier would have charged me with, I observed, I took some time to observe the function and how the various ministries were performing, and one of the things that I recognize that the water department in particular, the manager of the water department has always expressed a desire to be more out in the field. He's a hands-on individual. He likes to do things, a more technical person. And I recognize that that was his passion. And I observed. and he have expressed that concern. You know, sometimes he will say to me, boy, I better go find a manager for this thing. You know? I mean,
He's not the administrative type.
no, he was more of a hands-on individual.
Yes.
And we felt that the time has come for us to chart a new course, so to speak, with regards to our water department. And you know, we looked around quietly and we observed, and we recognized Miss Bartlett, and we brought her in initially as an engineer, and then again you observe and you look and you.
Oh, she's actually a qualified engineer?
She's a qualified engineer.
Oh, that's great.
With special training in water and so on.
That's great.
She has some qualification also in mathematics and so on. But a lot of that was forward thinking. I must use this opportunity to commend the immediate past manager, Mr. Roger Hanley. I think that he did a remarkable job under the circumstances that he had to deal with. Like I said, he was more on the technical side, and he was also trying to manage. So what we did, we basically created an operations manager position. And that operations manager position deals with all of the projects, the field work. And I think that he was best suited, best qualified for that. And then we were able to separate the administration, the administrative part of the water department, where we felt that Ms. Tonya Bartlett could fill that position. She's young, she is talented, she have a lot of ideas, and you know, she have a vision as to where she would like to see our water sector and our water department go. I keep appealing to all of the workers to cooperate with her and give her an opportunity to manage one of the most critical departments on the island of Nevis. Water. Water is life.
Oh, yes.
And she would need all of the support from all of the senior staff and all of the field guides and so on to make sure that at the end of the day, the people of Nevis benefit. So I think that she has brought a number of initiatives to the table, and I have said to her and I have said to the team, we are going to make sure that whatever we do and however we do it, the ultimate beneficiary must be the people of Nevis.
Yes.
So we would give the support where it is absolutely needed, and also I think that now that we have separated the administrative part of it and the technical part of it and the projects part of it, we are beginning to see things are coming together in a sense that they're moving along parallel. You know, just like any change, you know, you're going to have your hiccups here and there. You're going to have your flare up here and there, but you try and manage it the best way you can and build that harmony and that relationship with both individuals and the staff members, and so that we can move things forward. So I am very encouraged, and I think that in time, I think that the people of Nevis would see the benefit of this decision. Cabinet is in full support of that initiative. They would have given it their blessing. And we expect that both individuals and all of the managers, supervisors will work together, as I said, to bring the water department to bigger and better things. And the water department have done remarkably well over the years. They would have had oversight of this CDB project. We didn't really have to bring in any foreign contractor to undertake that CDB project. A sizable project for the island of Nevis, which had, in my mind, transformed the water distribution and the water storage capacity on the island of Nevis. So we have done reasonably well. We still have some ways to go, and I feel that separating the two distinct positions from the technical side, the project side, and the administrative side, I believe we will see great benefits for the people of Nevis.
Sounds good. Now, the new manager also spoke of structural changes in reporting lines. Could you shed a little more light on that for us? What exactly
Well,
does this mean?
I think it has to do with the procedures. We want to be able to establish how things are done within the structure of the water department. You have your management, you have your supervisors. You want to be able to get information flowing up and down and outwards as well. So trying to put that structure and rebuilding that structure is of critical importance to make sure that the whole function of the water department itself. Sometimes there are times that information are lost in transition and trying to get information from point A to point B. And the idea is that we want to be able to make sure that we set up or re-establish, so to speak, the protocols, if I may use that word.
The chain of command.
As to how things function in the water department. And she is very keen on that, And we are hoping that once that is fully fleshed out, that everyone can have a clear demarcation as to exactly what their roles and responsibilities are.
Okay, sounds good. Now, she mentioned that the Caribbean Water and Sewage Association will hold a full year of training, and that she intends to ensure that the water department staff is fully involved in that. Which areas of training will you be specifically targeting? Oh, not you, but
Well, we have quite a few areas that there are some concerns that we have, and customer service is one. We want to be able to improve our interaction with our customers. Develop that better rapport, so to speak, with our customers. So that is one such area that we would be seeking that training in customer relationship. Our human resources as well. We want to be able to develop our human resource and know exactly what it is that they can bring to the table and what it is exactly that the department is demanding of them. So it's going to be a process of trying to get a better understanding of all of the skill set of all of the workers and develop that skill set. We are also looking for training in water operations, testing in the labs and how you do things in the field and so on and so forth. Those are areas that we are trying to get those training to try and develop the workers, so to speak, that they can be much more rounded, better interaction with our customers.
Okay. Will you be taking on additional staff to facilitate all of the new initiatives that the manager has outlined, or you're satisfied that the existing staff is sufficient?
If needs be, I know that at the moment we have I can almost say a kind of pause on hiring, but I think that there are critical areas. If the need is that great, we go into cabinet and we make our case and we fight it out and we see if we can get these. But there are one or two areas that we may need to hire additional workers, but if it needs to be, then we would make our case and see. But like I said, we know that at the moment there is this freeze, so to speak, on hiring. And like I said, as we do the restructuring and as we do the outlay of how we want to see the operations at the water department, if there are key areas that we feel that is needed, then we would make the case to have those persons hired. We may not be successful, but we would do what we need.
Okay. Now, the Premier at his last press conference announced that the water department will be collecting the levy that Netflix used to collect for garbage disposal. Speak to us about the significance of that to the overall operations at the water department.
Well, I think that at Nevlec, I believe that they were facing some challenges there in collecting that levy. From what I'm understanding is that there are times that persons would pay the electricity bill but don't necessarily pay the levy.
I thought it was attached to the bill.
Well, it was attached, but it is clearly defined and demarked. And the sense also is that there is a much wider net, so to speak, with water. And one of the other challenge that we face is that NEVLEC is a statutory organized body. The water department is already attached to the financial mechanism, so to speak, of the NIA. So there really isn't much of a transition from NEVLEC or from water to the NIA resources, so to speak. It is all linked with water department already. So I think that the idea is that you are spreading a wider net. One, you would have a much larger customer base, and the transition of, or the transfer of fund and financing from NEVLEC to the NIA, that will no longer be an issue. It's all now with water department. It's all now into one, as we say, one pot, so to speak. So, and we felt that that was one of the reasons, or some of the reasons. I think that NEVLEC also is getting to a point where they, not that I'm speaking for NEVLEC, but I think that they needed to move to different levels, doing different things and so on and so forth. And that was one area that I felt that needed to transfer to somebody else.
Okay. When is this change likely to take effect?
The hope is, and once everything goes well, sometime in April, that is at the moment the target. And we are working towards that. We are hoping that we will be able to meet those targets. You know, there are little bumps and issues that we are trying to solve out in the background. Yeah.
Now, how would this additional responsibility affect the day-to-day operation of the water department?
Well, it wouldn't, you know. It's just another line item, so to speak, that would be placed on the water bill.
On the water bill.
And that money comes in, and it goes into the general revenue collection, so to speak. But it's not really an additional burden on the water department at all.
What sort of impact you think this may have on your expenditure or revenue collection, for that matter?
Well, the water department is in my mind one of the entities, so to speak, that is a point where the government collects revenue. It simply means then that if the water department, I'm just going to call a figure, let's say for 2020 the water department might have collected $5 million for water services. For 2021 it may collect $6 million. I'm just calling figures.
I know.
So the idea is that it would allow the NIA to have that conduit, so to speak, with the revenue for the solid waste, and then it goes where it's supposed to go. It doesn't really, because the funding for everything in water comes out of the general fund. It's not a statutory organization or anything like that. So comes in from the taxpayers, comes in from your water services, and goes out through the general revenue and so on. So it's basically in and out.
Okay. Let me ask you the $1 million question. If there was a slight problem collecting fees, that $10 fee at NEVLEC, why you think it's going to be better
you know,
at the water department?
that is indeed a $1 billion question. You say $1 million, it is a $1 billion question. And I believe, King, that perhaps we can look at what exactly is our priorities. I would say to you that the collection of garbage is a significant benefit to the island of Nevis, whether we like it or not. If we don't keep the island clean, if we don't collect our garbage, we can have significant problems on the island of Nevis. You can have outbreaks of all kind of waste-borne diseases and so on and so forth. So it is very critical that the garbage on the island of Nevis is collected in a timely basis. And I believe that the solid waste have developed a very efficient and effective system. Does the ordinary man on the street appreciate? I think that is the question that we need to ask. Does the ordinary man and woman on the street appreciate the role and the responsibility of what solid waste does to make sure that they prevent the outbreak of certain diseases? They keep our island clean. They make sure that the collection and disposal of our waste is done in a timely. Does the ordinary man and woman on the street appreciate that? That is one part of the million-dollar question. The other part of the million-dollar question is, if it is that persons are more prepared to pay or to ensure that they have their cell phone and their cable on, because you know if you don't pay your cell phone or your cable, at the flip of a switch, you are disconnected. Are we going to get there with Neblek and water? Perhaps the technology is there. You can stay in an office and switch off your water, but you know water is life. We turn off people water and then you open up a different can of worms and so on. But it goes down to what our priorities are. Do we appreciate the collection of garbage and the disposal of garbage, or we couldn't care less whether the garbage is collected or not? That is something that I would leave to the individual to answer.
My thinking is that there must be some consequences to be if you refuse to pay. I think that is what is needed to ensure that people pay. I mean, I know water is life and we don't want to do it, but there comes a time when you just have to take action.
We are getting to that point slowly and painfully because we feel that the water service that we are delivering to the general public, while it is already heavily subsidized and it is underpriced, we feel that it would be good if the general public would, respond to their responsibility and the obligation and pay their water bill.
Now, I want to shift your focus a little to the Hamilton Water Project, which I understand is now fully completed. Give us some feedback on it now that it's in full operation, if indeed it is.
Well, it's functioning well. I think that it's living up to the expectation of what we envisioned that it would do. Once again, the general public would remember that during the BEAD project, BEAD would have discovered a well during the drilling program here on the island of Nevis over a decade ago in Hamilton. But it was a very high performing well. But unfortunately had some chemicals inside of it that was outside of the World Health Organization standard and guideline. And when I assumed responsibility for water, I was made aware of this well and recognized that, hey, I am certain that there is technology out there that can fix this problem. And we went on a process to procure this water filtration system that takes out the contaminant through a process and allow the water to be used for potable purposes. We have also, at the Hamilton site, constructed a new water tank, replacing a fiberglass tank that was there and was leaking. I think that everyone who drive up Hamilton would have seen the water coming down Hamilton Road. It was leaking, and based on the material of the fiberglass, you really couldn't replace or repair, so to speak, that fiberglass. So we took the decision of constructing a new water tank, along with the filtration system, along with tapping into this this high yielding well. And pulling all of that together, I was able to add some additional, a few hundred gallons of water into the system on a day-to-day basis. It is meeting the expectation of what we set out to. It has been functioning now for a few months. And I think that it now allows us to even expand the storage capacity in Hamilton, because we have just had on island the roof of the old stone tank has been sitting down there for some time, that hasn't been in use. And once again I took the decision. I said, look, we have the storage capacity there sitting down. The roof had caved in. I said there are ways in which we can repair this. We have the material on site, and we hope to have that roof repaired very shortly, and that would add some additional storage there in the Hamilton. The idea is to have as much storage in this area, because from time to time we have to move water from different parts of the island to feed Charleston. And I felt that that was not something that I was comfortable with. I feel that we needed to have our capacity as much as possible, and our storage capacity. As Charleston feeds down to Four Seasons, into Bath, Stony Grove, Craddock Road, Main Street, a wide section. And at times, I don't think that it would be fair to deprive the people of Gingerland of water, sending it into town to feed Charleston, or deprive the people of St. James's, Fountain, Camps, Mount Lily, and Shifty Water. So I felt that we needed to expand and develop our capacity in this area, so that those other areas can be able to meet their own demands, and while we in this section of the island. As we're working out, I think that we would really see the real test, I feel, when the drought, the dry spell hit us. And I think that we would really see the real test when our tourism plant is firing on all cylinders. I still feel that we need to continue to do the exploration of additional water, which is something that we are pursuing. And once again, because of financing, we did apply to the Sustainable Development Fund last year for some funding to do some additional well. We were unsuccessful. And I'm going to be frank, I was extremely disappointed, very disappointed. So we are still in a bind to try to find some financing to do some additional wells, to add some additional water into the system. We have come some ways, but we still have a significant way to go. Just a few weeks ago, we were approached with a desal proposal. We are looking at it at the moment. I am a little uncomfortable with the price, but that is something that we will discuss internally. But we are trying to put all options on the table as it regards to additional sources of water. I honestly feel that we can get to a point where we can have 24/7 availability of water. There is a significant percentage of non-revenue generating water still have some leaks here and there. We would have partnered with the Ministry of Agriculture, so to speak, in terms of the trust in agriculture. So we would have allowed farmers and so on some special concession rates and so on and so forth. So the Water Department is trying to meet the demand for water, and we will continue to meet the demand with additional expansion and so on with water.
Okay. I want to stick to the Hamilton project for a little bit. What about I notice it is wide open. What about the safety and security of that particular area, some fencing and
you're reading my mind. We have at the moment a project to do the fencing. We have the design, the drawing, we have the bid documents, so to speak. It's not really a large project, but a very important project. I'm happy that you spoke about that, because We don't know what is going through people's mind these days, King.
Exactly.
And now that we would have finished the filtration system, constructing the tank, we are going to complete the repair to the roof very shortly, and we have the fencing too. So we have 2 additional projects there in Hamilton to do: the fencing and also the repair of the stone tank. So those 2 projects is going to come on stream very shortly, because like you, safety is a big issue. We actually completed the fencing at the tank there in Jessops. If you drive to the top of Jessops before you go up to Fernhill, that is a project that was completed last year with the fencing and the security. It is our aim to have all of our waterside storage facilities secured with cameras and the like. Because like I said, we don't know when someone is going to do something kind of mischievous and so on and so forth. And we don't want to have a situation here where we can run into problems. I'm hoping that no one would, but it is better to be safe than sorry. So that is a project that we will continue. Like I said, we did the one in Jessops, nicely fenced, so no one can really get in and do anything in there. That is the intention. We have tanks all around, and we want to make sure that we can secure them, that no one can get into them and interfere with anything that we have there.
Okay. Now, we now have more water going into our system, and we are all happy for that as a result of the Hamilton project. But I think I saw a notice coming from the water department which says that the water department will be rationing water in the month of April.
Rationing water?
I'm sure I saw something like that.
UV glasses?
As from April, you'll be rationing water. I was a
Rationing
little puzzled.
water?
Yeah.
No,
I was a little puzzled by that.
That is probably some fake news, misinformation.
Well, I'm happy to hear that, because that was...
No. What I think you might have misread it's the process of trying to get people to pay the bill. There might be some disconnection that might be happening.
Oh, it's along that line. I thought I see water rationing really.
No.
All right, yeah, good for that.
No, it's not water rationing. And I just want to say to the general public that there is no immediate or imminent plans that is afoot for any water rationing on the island of Nevis. Let me make that point very clear.
That sounds good.
If that is information that is floating around out there, I'm not certain where that came from.
Okay, all right, that sounds good. Folks, you're listening to Government at Work. My guest for this evening is the Honorable Spencer Brandon. We'll take a short break, and when we return, we shall continue with our discussions here on Government at Work.
So right, St. Thomas is right, St. James is put together and build your land. Right, St. George's and St. Paul's together with St. John's. This land is enough for all to share. No reason to leave and go nowhere. Foreigners can come here from America and England. There is something mighty sweet about my land. And if the foreigners who live here can insist that it's here they're from, then I swear I'll never leave my native land. One people, one country.
Welcome back. Honorable, I observe that you have asked citizens and residents to seriously consider the installation of cisterns or water tanks on their premises to offset any water shortages that may have come. What's the response been like thus far?
Well, it not has been as good as we would like. We intend to embark on some public
Awareness
and public information to that extent. We are also looking at it from a planning point of view, where we would try and encourage persons to construct their home with cisterns. What I've also found is that a lot of persons have cisterns and they're not really using them. Is it that we have become so good with our water delivery, that persons are no longer using their system. The system, in my mind, can do a number of things. One, it can save an individual from having to pay a water bill. That's the first thing. If you have a cistern and you get good rainwater, put on your pump and you put on your filter, and you can have water to do whatever you want to do with, and eliminates completely an individual from having to pay water bill. That's one. If you have a cistern as well, it allows the island of Nevis to have more water available in the system. So if you have 10 persons using their system and they don't take water from the water department, then that water can be used for something else. But I think that we have to get to a point where we have to do a lot more in conservation of our water. And that is where we want to get conservation and harvesting of rainwater. That is the point where we want to get to. Like I said, we are looking at it from a planning point of view, where we may, I don't necessarily want to say we might legislate it, but we are hovering around that kind of thinking where we would ask persons to ensure that if they are going to do any new building, they have some water storage capacity. It doesn't necessarily have to be a cistern, but it can be one of these storage tanks. If for some reason the entire water system is shut down on Nevis, you have hurricane, you have some other kind of natural disaster, I still believe that every single home on the island of Nevis should be able to sustain themselves for at least 7 to 10 days without and you have to look at worst case scenarios, you know. You have to look at worst case scenario. Our water system is driven by a lot of mechanical parts, pumps and those kind of things. They often, from time to time, fail. Sometimes you have a failure in a pump, you have electrical issues, you have mechanical issues. Sometimes our well is offline and the people on Nevis don't even realize that our well is offline because the guys have been able to shift things around and able to keep it together. You have 2 or 3 or 4 of them go down for one reason or the other. It can be some concern for us. So there are all kind of reasons as to why I feel like the people of Nevis should seriously consider water storage.
Agreed.
Because it gives them a level of comfort in the event of any natural disaster, in the event of any mechanical issues. Sometimes water department is doing some repairs on a line in various areas, the water goes off, and then, you know, people get very uncomfortable without the use of water. And it may only be out for an hour or 2, and people get very uncomfortable.
True.
That is, in my mind, an opportunity for them to tap into their own storage capacity, and as if nothing had happened.
Now, in our young days, water catchment was a must.
Well,
Almost every home had the little drum on the outside or a little something.
we had to
But
fill them up before we got to school.
Exactly,
Yes.
exactly. I think what is happening, and one of the reasons for the drastic cutback in the water catchments is the fact that people are now buying water. In the days we never used to buy no water, so you had to have your system there to get your water from. But people are now buying bottled water, and I think that would be one of the reasons.
But that's what I said. We have come a long way, King, because the reality is that when we were growing up, we didn't really have anyone on the island of Nevis processing water and selling water as they are doing now. We now have what, 2, 3 outlet.
Yes.
When we were growing up, we didn't have water to every single home on the island of Nevis, so we had to go by the dumps and fill up our buckets, fill up our drums. Same water that we used to use to cook and to bathe and to do everything with. Now you have the option of using the government water, mainly to do your washing and your cooking and your. Many people doesn't even cook with government water; they use the water from there. So we have come some way, but in the back of my mind, I always think doomsday scenario, worst case scenario, and it may be maybe not the right way of thinking, but you always look at a situation that what if,
Yes.
and you built in these what if scenarios, and you say, well, what if God forbid we have a hurricane that really
Messed up the
disrupt
situation.
our water distribution system.
Sure.
And we are down for 3 days, 5 days. What if, the implication that it can have. And so you try to mitigate those scenarios by trying to encourage people to take on some of the responsibility of their own storage.
Makes sense. I agree with you. The catchments are very important. Let me ask you this. Will the ministry be offering any duty-free concessions or any type of assistance on the construction of these catchments that may help?
Well, at the moment, I know that there is this initiative for concession and for home builders, general construction really. And I think that it's an area that we have discussed. I think just last week we consider what can be some of the incentive that we can offer to the general public.
Okay.
We spoke about these storage tanks, whether we can offer duty-free concession on them, or you speak about cistern. If a house is designed and approved at planning with a cistern, what concession we can offer to them. We have to look also at these energy-saving fixtures, the faucet and the toilet. What incentive we can offer to the various hardwares to encourage them to bring in these energy-saving toilet and face basins so that they can be more readily accessible to the general public. And those are things that just last week in one of our heads meeting we considered that, and the water resource management team is to look at some options and see what we can offer to the general public. Of course, have to be approved by cabinet, but it is something that we have discussed before, and just last week again we looked at it, and I'm hoping that we can, in very short order, come to the general public with a package, so to speak, that can offer to the general public, hey, if you buy an energy-saving faucet or toilet, let's say, for example, it can be percentage can come off of the duty, those kind of things that can encourage people to buy that.
Okay. Let me ask you, the as part of the stimulus package, water was offered to our farmers and so forth.
Yes.
Is that still going on?
Yeah, it's still ongoing. I think a lot of farmers continue to benefit from it. The idea is that we want to be able to give as much support not only to the agriculture sector, but to persons who are still feeling the pinch of the downturn. The reality is that there are still some individuals who are facing some challenges. But it is still available to the farmers. They are still benefiting. We have not made a determination as yet as to how long, or it's something that we are monitoring, and we are hoping that while we give the subsidy on the water, that the benefit can be passed on to the ordinary man and woman on the street in the purchasing of their produce. You get reduced price in water, give the customer a reduced price in your product. And,
Agreed.
So,
Hand go, hand come.
well, and that is the idea, that we can partner together with agriculture and make sure that, because at the end of the day, we want the general public to be the ultimate beneficiary. We will lose some revenue, yes, but that is the government's way of saying, hey, we are all in this together. We wouldn't mind forfeiting some revenue if we can have more food on the plates of our people at a reduced price. I think that for me, that is a small price to pay if we can lose some revenue here and the people benefit at the shops there.
Okay. Now, speaking of the impact of COVID, I saw a notice for the disconnection of water from the 1st of March. This I know is nothing new. It's something that has been done from time to time. But has the non-payment of water bills gotten worse since the COVID?
Strangely enough, not really, there were some individuals who, because of the loss of employment, it wasn't that significant. I think what we were looking at were persons who have had delinquent bills for a very long time. And we felt that, hey, we are trying to play our part in partnering with health and agriculture and with the ordinary persons who would have lost their job and have a loss of income, but yet there are still some individuals and some businesses who have not paid for a significant period of time. And we felt that that is an area that we want to try and reduce if we can eliminate it. I remember my first budget presentation in the House that I did indicate that there was delinquent arrears of over $3 million, something like that. That was in 2018. That was before COVID. So it has been an ongoing problem. For the life of me, I can't understand why some people are just refusing to pay their water bill. Right? And it goes back to what I said initially, that you don't pay a cable bill, you don't pay your telephone bill. By the flip of a switch, you are disconnected. And we have this motto that water is life. If you don't have any water, then we know the problem that we have had. It has been an ongoing problem, King, and the idea is that we would have sent out some communication to these delinquent customers, and we are asking them kindly to go into the office, have a conversation with the folks there at the office. And we are not necessarily asking them to pay all of their bill one time. That is not really the intention at all. The intention is to come up with a payment plan, keep your current bill current, and your arrears, you work out 3 months, 6 months, 8 months, based on the size of the arrears. And see if we can get these arrears off the books. And the new manager is very aggressive with it. And we have said to her that, look, the government is prepared to support the initiative, because we feel that for water department to really offer the level of service and to expand and to be responsive to the general public, that these bills have to be paid.
I see you're running from it, but at the end of the day, you must have failure to comply X.
Yes,
otherwise the problem will never be solved.
I'm not really running from it, King, but the reality is, personally, King, I really would not want to disconnect anyone
I
water.
understand.
To be honest with
you,
and I'm being honest.
I understand.
I really would not want to disconnect anyone water.
I understand. The pastoral side of it is coming out.
The
bottom line is.
But I think that we have to get to that point, because sadly there have been some abuse of the system, and maybe I don't know. Maybe my
pastoral side. Honorable, let me shift your focus now to roads. You did promise to resurface a number of roads in the Charleston area, your constituency, of course.
Yes.
And that promise seems to have begun. We are currently witnessing the resurfacing of road from Hosford's to Rams, and a little from the roundabout up to Club Tremens. That has to be a nice feeling for you as well.
Well, like I said, 2020 was, a lot of the plans and projection that we had for 2020, we really had to shelf them. When our borders closed at the end of March, we had our what I would call almost like a crisis cabinet meeting, so to speak. I call it crisis because you really had to shift focus. We were told that immediately the projection of revenue collection was down. I think it was 20%. And then the focus shifted from some of these infrastructural projects to agriculture, to healthcare, and to education. And right now that is still some of the main, and of course social services. That is still some of the main focus, or the main area of focus. My ministry and my constituency, so the commitments were, as you rightly said, were given, and just like everyone else's commitment to their constituency, some of those things had to be shared. There is, however, still this unprecedented demand, COVID or no COVID, for road improvement. And throughout the length and breadth of Nevis, we have some areas that is in real deplorable condition. I think that if the Premier were to give my ministry a blank check and say fix all the roads in Nevis, it's going to take us another 10 years to do that because of the demand and some of the condition of some of these roads. We only see, I think, a small fraction of it. A lot of these off-roads, side roads, village roads, and so on is in desperate need. But to get back to the area that you specifically spoke about, the reason why that was done, we purchased this milling machine last year, and we did some virtual training, which I thought went extremely well. And we also did a test milling from the public works itself over to Neplec. The general public can drive on that stretch of road there that was milled off by the team at Public Works and Resurface, based on the virtual training that they did. A couple of weeks ago now, we had one of the agents from the supplier on the ground to actually did some on the ground training and to take the training and the maintenance of the machine to another level. That area there from Hosford to in that area going up there, almost every other week you have to fix potholes. You have a lot of areas around like that. You name it. And so we felt that for us to really keep up with the demand, one, in our maintenance, that we needed this piece of machine. General public would realize that area was milled off in a matter of a couple of days, right? And once we get to that level where I think that the guys are now, their comfort level is increasing every day. We would see that one afternoon they would drive on a piece of road, and then in a day or two they will come back and realize that the road had been completely resurfaced. That is where we intend to get. That is the level where we intend to get to. But while we get to that level, we continue to ensure that there are some problem areas throughout. I can think of Cattle Part. You drive on Cattle Part, and these constant fixing of potholes. You drive on some areas, Four Seasons area, TDC to Four Seasons. There are just some of those areas. The bypass road from TDC come all the way around to Long Point, heavy use traffic areas. So the areas are all over Nevis, and in our maintenance program of the Island Main Road, in time to come, that is all that we will be doing. Milling off, resurfacing. This piece of road was done some 20 years ago. The life cycle of asphalt is nowhere close to 20 years. We have been extremely fortunate to get 20 years out of it.
Sure.
And if we can get 20 years, let's say for example, if we can get even 15 years out of what we are doing now, people of Nevis may not see the benefit of it now, but if you have to be patching that road for the next 10 years here and there and so on and so forth, you see where the escalation in the price. So it's a good feeling, yes, because I think that the mandate is to try and make people as comfortable as possible. It is the demands of the general public. Every day you get these demands and you get these requests and you try to meet them the best way you can. And like I said, resources is limited. So, and as I indicated before, 2020 we did not get to accomplish as much as we would have liked. I think we just basically finished the Brown Hill project and the Quadric project because there was already on stream during 2020. We didn't really take on any major. We just try and manage and do some repairs here and there. But I think in 2021 and going into 2022, we would see. And once again, that depends on the availability of resources. We can come with our ambitious agenda, okay? And we can put on the table that we want to do A, B, C, and D. But if finance says to me, Minister Brad, I can't prefer it. And if that is the reality, then you have to adjust and do the best you can.
Okay. Now, understood. Financing is very important. But there's two particular pieces of road that I'm hoping that you could get done before the first half of 2021, and that is the road going up to the Nevis Bakery. You could clearly see that it needs some work there, and the one coming from the Methodist Church going around the corner. Those two pieces of road definitely need some work done on them.
The general public would recall, King, that we actually did Chapel Street in a couple of days. Mm-hmm. That was done with soil paving milling machine. Mm-hmm. The initial plan was to complete Happy Hilali that same time. Mm-hmm. But the soil paving milling machine actually was on Chapel Street, on Happy Hilali the next night. Mm-hmm. But they developed some technical difficulties, and so that wasn't completed. That, I believe, we would be able to do. Will it be in the first half of 2021? I am not going to sit here and guarantee the people of Nevis that. Mm-hmm. But I know that we have the entire section from the Methodist Church go all the way over to the Jewish cemetery. We have a concept, we have the design, the intention is to even take out that swale nearby to the top of Happy Hilali. Mm-hmm.
Make it a little more.
Right, and put the drainage underneath. Mm-hmm. We have that concept. If you notice, we would have completed the wall by the Anglican Church. Yes. The aim is that we also intend to have a conversation with our good friends at the Methodist Church and take down their wall and create the sidewalk. All of that was a part of our initial plan. But like I said, the finances did not allow us to in 2020. We have that entire design already. The engineers would have done the drainage, the sidewalk, and all of that. I think they might need to do a little tweeting with it, because I think one of the things that we decided to add to it is a kind of pull-off area right there by the Mud Cross preschool. So it is not that we don't have things that we want to do. It is heavily dependent on the availability of finances. Also, we have been requesting the milling off, since the milling machine has already been out in the public domain. One individual has been asking, when are we going to do the government road to the hospital? Government road is in a similar condition to Happy Hilali, where you have this built up of asphalt that they have put on over there. So there is a lot of work for it to do, but I have to make sure that I have the necessary resources
Understood.
from the good folks at finance.
Understood. Let me ask you something. The milling machine, like you say, is capable of taking off an entire road basically in one day.
Yeah.
Why can't we do the asphalting immediately after?
No, we'll get to that. We'll get to that level, King. It is my expectation that we will be able to get to that, because I am thinking that, and as the team develop the level of confidence and competence that we can do the milling in the night, but we want to make sure that there is no obstacle and things to damage the machine and so on and so forth. The thinking is that we can do the milling in the night, make sure that all of the drains and so on is in good condition, because some of them would need some masonry work and so on and so forth. So we can do the milling in the night, and at the break of dawn, we can then do the asphalt. The concern that I have is basically the same team that is going to be doing the milling in the night and then have to do the asphalt.
That's all next day.
We don't necessarily want to burn out these guys.
Yes.
It is one thing to say do it in one sweep and so on and so forth, but the body, you need to make sure you guys are rested, and we don't really want to kill them out and then, but we expect that we'll be able to shorten the time, so to speak, maybe a day and a half, but as we develop the skills, and I think that they are up to that level now where the length of time that they would take to mill off, you have these boxes from the telephone company in the street. The machine really cannot touch that box, otherwise it's going to damage the machine. You don't really want to do that in the night and then, it will run into one of those boxes. You want to be able to. So we are looking at a number of dynamics in it, but I am happy that we have the machine. The guys are up to a level now where their level of confidence is at a stage where, and they're already asking, Mr. where to?
No, they want to know.
So.
Sounds good. Now, let me ask you, the traffic in Nevis now is real busy nowadays.
Yes.
We have a lot of vehicles on the road nowadays. But we don't seem to be utilizing the Sunday, which is the slow day. Why is that? You would thought that the Sunday is a good day to do that road operation, but I'm not seeing that at all.
Sunday I go to church on Sunday.
Me too.
But it's a valid point, King. Sundays, and I think that we have done some work before on Sundays. We have to look at the overtime aspect of it. Sunday is time and a half, whatever the rate is, and so on and so forth. So we have to give some consideration to that. And you weigh the pros and cons of it. I appreciate that the general public is a little unhappy for the disruption, and I apologize for that. I look at it as a disruption, yes, but for
A good cause.
A good cause, and I hope that they would understand and appreciate. And like I said, sometimes we are tempted to do some of this work at night, but you want to be sure that at the end of it, even though you do it at night, you want to be sure that you get the best possible product. Daylight is the best natural light you can have. We can do it at night. We can bring in all of these floodlights and so on and so forth. And you may still be able to miss something. But I think in daylight you have the good sight and so on. But we are considering the night work. I think that the Sunday work is going to come when there is a real need for it. And I hope that whether it's on a Sunday or whether it's in the week, that the general public would bear with us for the inconvenience for a couple of days, and then we hope that we can give them the product that they are seeking.
Speak to us a little about the impact that this milling machine is having on your expenditure or your revenue collection for that matter.
Well, you wouldn't really see it, the impact right now over the last week or two. But what I can say to you is the milling machine does a number of things that will be beneficial. And I want to look at it from that angle. The surface that we have milled off, the asphalt that we have milled off, we have transported it back to the asphalt plant. That milled material would be reprocessed, recycled, and be used somewhere else. So right then and there, it is saving us in asphalt and it is saving us in aggregates. We have to buy our asphalt from a supplier. It costs 30,000, 40,000 US per barrel. And I think that might be on the low side. We know that we normally get these badge here with these tons and tons and tons of aggregate. So right then and there, the two main elements of our road improvement program is reprocess, the asphalt and the aggregates. It therefore means that we'll be using less asphalt and we'll be using less aggregates. It means that instead of us ordering 10 tank of bitumen per year, we may now need to order 4 or 5. Right then and there, you see a saving. Instead of us ordering 2 shipments of quarry materials per year, we may now need to order 1. Right then and there, and a badge of quarry material is a couple $100,000. So right then and there, you see an immediate saving, right? Sure. In terms of equipment, we have this equipment that mills off the machine. It is quicker. Before, we would have had to put a backhoe on there that is a lot slower. The backhoe might have taken 2 or 3 days to remove the surface. We took a couple hours. So right then and there, you are seeing in that
tremendous savings.
In that one operation, you already can see the significant saving.
Now, I have seen this milling machine in operation, and I ask myself, why can't we use this machine to continue the road from Cliff Dwellers all the way to the airport and around the island?
You probably see it on my notes.
That's notes.
That has been a serious discussion that we have had. And it is something that we are considering very seriously, because we would have had the quotation from the company that did the first phase of
paving.
Yeah. We would have had the quotation, and like everything else, we had to defer that project. When I look at that project, there is not much lifting or realignment of that area that needs to be done. So it's something that we are seriously considering internally, and I think that once we get 1 or 2 things sorted out, then we can make a determination that, hey, we will take on this project. But that is something that we are looking at very seriously. It is not something that is impossible. We have to look and see if we decide to take that stretch of road on, if it's going to keep us bogged down in other areas and so on and so on. We are weighing the pros and cons of it, but we believe that that machine would allow us to take on projects like those. Can go in, mill it off in a day or 2, and we do whatever alignment and leveling and so on and so forth, and we can get it done. I know that the guys are capable. We just need to make sure that we have all of our bases and so on covered.
Okay. Now, during his 2021 budget presentation, the Premier Minister of Finance, the Honourable Mark A.G. Brantley, made mention of 2 major road development projects that is to take place during 2021, namely the Bath Ring Road and the Butler's Village Road. Could you give us an update on the status of those 2?
Well, the Butler's Road is, we are finalizing some of the designs um, with that area. It's a little, the area that we are working on is a little um, dicey, so to speak. You know, we have quite a number of properties that we feel is going to be affected, and the engineers are finalizing how they can map it out to reduce the impact on the various properties along the carriageway. That, I believe, we should have the final concept very shortly, because our aim was to at least start one of those projects within the early part of the second quarter of this year, which, and you know, that would be sometime in April. And so we are basically fine-tuning and finalizing some of the requirements as it regards to butlers. Bad Village, we have some information in Bad Village that we are looking at, you know, different options in Bad Village as well. But I think one of the main priority was right now to try and see if we can get butlers on the ground, and then maybe another month or so after we can. Bad Village is not as difficult as butlers. So we wanted to start butlers first, and then shortly after we can get Bad Village going. But we are very advanced as it regards to the design and the final concept, so to speak, in butlers. I believe that we would have to have, as we did in Vaughan Hill and in Bath and in Craddock Road, this town hall meeting. And that, I believe, should be scheduled very shortly, so that we can update the good folks in butlers what the intention is, when we hope to start, and ask them for their cooperation and their support. It's going to be disruptive. You know, you go into butlers, it's kind of tight area and so on and so forth. So persons will have to try and work with us as we try to get the project completed.
Okay. Folks, you are listening to Government at Work. We have come to another edition, and I want to take this opportunity to thank the Honorable Spencer Brand for taking time out of his busy schedule to be with us this evening. Mr. Brand, before we close off this program, any final words for our listening and viewing audience?
Well, I just want to thank you, King, for this opportunity. I think we have had a wonderful discussion. You know, there are a lot of areas that we didn't get into. Labor and post office and planning and so on and so forth. The ministry is such a large and diverse ministry that we can sit here for the next 4 hours and still don't even touch it. But I just want to thank you for inviting me. I want to thank the general public for allowing us into their homes and to share what's happening in I think this was just 2 of my ministries, my departments, water and public works. Mm-hmm. There is still a lot more to be said. And I just want to appeal to the general public, especially with our road works and with our water infrastructure, that there will be disruption in traffic, there will be disruption in water. And we would try our utmost best to be more communicate a bit more with our general public, with the general public, that they would be abreast of what we are planning ahead of time, so they can make whatever adjustment. I think that has been one of the outstanding issues that the general public and I'm hoping that when the information is placed in the public domain, that they can share it. You know, people share all kind of things on social media. That they can share this kind of information with the general public once it's made available to the general public, so that other road users, other consumers of water can be aware. And we will do our best to get these various projects completed in the shortest period that is possible, so that the general public can be as comfortable as possible. So, King, thanks for the invitation, and It was indeed my pleasure.
It was indeed my pleasure as well. Folks, that's it for this edition of Government at Work. Join us again next week when we shall do it all over again. Enjoy the rest of the evening's programming and have a pleasant night's rest. Good night.